Guys, Caleb here with DSLR Video Shooter, and today we're talking about money. And in this video, specifically, I want to dial in how to figure out how much to charge for your video services and video work. It's a really tough question, and there's not a ton of information out there. And in a recent live stream with my good friend Corbin Tyson, we sat down and answered a ton of your questions when it comes to video production and running a business with video. And one of those questions, and one of the things we really wanted to get across, was how to figure out how to charge for your work. So we're going to jump into that, and I cut it up a little bit to give you a better look at the scenario we went through, and you'll see an example of where we actually price out a gig with real numbers and all that good stuff. So a couple quick things to keep in mind. Number one, you can kind of plug in different numbers in this little spreadsheet setup we'll be talking about. And the second thing is, if you want to learn more about running a business and essentially this content on steroids, check out the links in the description to the corporate video guide that Corbin and myself did together. So much information when it comes to pricing, estimates, quotes, running a business, taxes, shooting, all of that good stuff, and working with clients, and so much other information. So make sure you check that out. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let Corbin the master get started here, and we'll wrap things up after the segment. Right, so let's talk about money.
Money.
And pricing.
I'm wondering, maybe we should just like pick a business and price it out, maybe?
Yeah,
that it's so vague because it just depends.
If you want to start big instead of, I feel like a lot of people do the little things. So
let's start with a big one. Okay, so if you have, we'll just say it's a company that makes machines. How's that?
Right on.
And it's going to be a 3-day shoot. So let's keep that in mind. So you've got 3 days. I should have a pen and paper.
I can totally hook you up.
So we can write all this down.
Continue.
So we'll start with the producer-director rate, which is not going to be just the 3 days. It's going to be the day of meeting before, and then the meetings after, and then, all of the post-production. So traditionally, I'm playing the role of producer-director, and then I'm going to hire a crew. And then because I started off as an editor, I like to be the editor on the project if I'm not swamped and overwhelmed. So I'll typically do the post-production as well, and then bring in motion graphic artists if needed. So if we're looking at a 3-day shoot, I will automatically, for the producer-director, I will say that that's going to be 5 days of time. And then you've got your DP, which is going to be 3 days. And then typically I'm going to have an audio guy. That's 3 days. And then I'll have probably a grip to help with lighting. So that's 3 days. So producer director is typically, $750 to $1,250. DP is going to be $1,250. And then a grip, it depends on their experience. That's going to be, I'll just say $500. It just depends. And then 3 days of an audio guy is probably, if you want a good one, pay them $750. Because they do, to me, an audio guy is the most important crew member. When I have shoots that it's just me, because I have clients that will want, their budget doesn't allow for me to bring a crew, or we're traveling, I will always insist on bringing an audio guy, because that's probably, to me, the most important aspect, especially with corporate videos, capturing that audio. And then I know this isn't specific, but you got to factor in your rentals. Even if you own your own gear, I recommend that you charge to rent your gear to the client. And so that is absolutely going to vary. But I will, just for this sake, we'll say that we're going to have a $1,000 rental budget, and that'll cover you quite well. And a lot of people ask me, why do if you own your own gear, why charge for rentals? Well, I got to pay for that gear somehow, and I've got to it breaks. I broke a lens yesterday, and so I have to replace that. And a lot of times I'll use lensrentals.com for the camera. Right on. So I just did a shoot for 2 weeks in India for a documentary, and we rented everything from Lens Rentals. That way your insurance is covered, all the gear, you don't have to worry about losing it or breaking it. So So we'll just say that's what I say, $1,000 for rental. Okay. So then post-production, I would typically start on the low end at 2,500 and go up depending on the scope.
Right.
And I should have prefaced that. All of this depends on scope.
Right.
And I say the line I use with clients all the time is they'll say, well, how much is a video? And I'll say, well, it depends. You could shoot an interview in a day, or you could shoot Star Wars. So for $10,000, you're not going to get Star Wars. So it all depends on the creative scope. So when a new client will call me, I'll often back up and ask a few questions. Where's this going to play? What's the goal? How many people do we need to shoot? Are we shooting a product? And then we kind of develop the budget from there. And then often the client will come back and say, I can't spend that much. And then you have to kind of compromise. So I tell people, when you're first initially doing a bid a little bit higher, because they're going to want to come down, and then you'll have some wiggle room. And where I find wiggle room in my quotes is in rentals and then post-production. And then what I would say, if you're just starting out, start tracking your time then, because then you can start figuring out, am I making money here?
Yeah.
And if you break it down, $12.50, that's going to be on a 10-hour day, that's $125 an hour. And then you can kind of fluctuate from there, especially as a producer director, because you're going to be on the phone, you're going to be coordinating the crew, and you need to charge for that.
Right.
And my good friend, his name is Austin. When I first got my first big gig, which was a $50,000 budget.
Whew.
Yeah. And I had been doing like $500 furniture commercials before that, like literally $500 for 3 furniture commercials every month. And I got a gig that was a significant budget, and I said, I don't even know what to do with that much money.
Yeah.
And he said, if you're not scared crapless when you send that quote, then you're not charging enough. And that's been good advice when I was first starting out, to be a little nervous.
Right.
And then you kind of figure it out as you go. And
Perfect.
you can, if you do the math right and you make this a spreadsheet and build it as you go, you want to be shooting for, especially if you're your own company, you want to shoot for 50% profit. 40 to 50% profit. So if you broke that down, once you pay your crew and you pay for rentals, and if you're doing post-production internally, you're going to, probably walk away with $7,000 out of this gig.
Right.
That would be the goal.
Gotcha.
And then the last thing I would say is, one of the ways that I learned is I found in my area a DP that was a union DP in Chicago, and I called him up when I was first starting, and I asked him, hey, can I come clean your truck? I'll sweep it out, I'll do whatever, I just want to learn, and I'll do it for free. And so, especially like to that kid that's 14 that's just starting out, do stuff for free, because most likely you still don't have to pay rent. So do it for free, and then quiz those guys down. Say, hey, what do you charge? What do you charge for this? How do you do this? And I worked on like a Heineken beer commercial and a couple of other movies, like a John Malkovich movie, all just kind of learning. And all the while I was doing these crappy furniture commercials.
Right.
Just learning.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Perfect.
I hope that answers. That was a long answer.
No, it's got to be kind of. So hopefully that helps you guys kind of navigate how much to charge. Couple things that are really important to keep in mind. Number one, and this is going to sound super greedy, but it's important if you want to still have a job and make a living, and that is to think about profit or revenue, if you will. So like Corbin talked about, you want to be shooting for that 50% mark. Otherwise, you're kind of a bank. You're just essentially taking money from a client and sending it to other people. You need to be making sure that your company or business is growing, so keep an eye on the revenue of each project. And that 50% number is really, really handy and important to keep in mind. So as you're pricing everything out, make sure you're not just taking money and moving it somewhere else, but you're actually bringing stuff home so that you can pay your taxes, feed your family or yourself, have a roof over your head, and still have money left over to invest in the future and all that good stuff. The other thing to keep in mind, again, is you can just scale the numbers down. And if you don't need an audio guy for 3 days or several other people, maybe it's really, really small and you're getting started. So something like this might make a lot more sense, where you're the producer, director, shooter, and you have an assistant, and it's a lot more scaled down. But the beauty is you can take this system and modify it. And as you grow as a company, you'll be able to figure out, like Corbin talked about, your hourly rates and what you need to be making to actually stay in business. So hopefully that was helpful. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel here if you want to see future live streams with other filmmakers like the one I did with Corbin, which I'll have linked to in the description below. And of course, if you want to learn more about corporate video, making money, working with clients, all that good stuff, check out the link in the description to the corporate video guide that I did with Corbin. Tons of information there, and that could be a great solution or resource for you guys if you're really wanting to up your game in video production. So with that out of the way, stay tuned for fresh videos every single Tuesday with live streams on Wednesdays. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.